And this is a series of, well, you said the first of many? Okay.
Ongoing.
All right.
Not one, it has to be ongoing.
Okay.
And the younger we can get them in.
Give me, what are we calling this? Healing our community up. Wait, come on, Dave, wait.
What are we gonna call this?
Yes, this program. What, you guys think of something quickly?
What I might think of, it's not appropriate for here.
Yeah. I would just call it real talk.
Real talk? Okay.
Maybe you resurrect and talk black to me.
Yeah.
And make it plain, make it
Okay,
plain.
now with mics, so you two will share mics.
We'll share.
Right.
I don't think I'll have to.
Okay, maybe, let's have Dr. Clayton, you have that mic.
I don't need a mic.
And then these two, you two share, and then,
Yeah.
and then you two share.
Yeah, we can
Because,
swing
but I
up,
think
yeah, if I have-
if I'm hosting, I gotta always have a mic in front of me, so, okay.
She doesn't like to play in the sandbox with other people.
Good afternoon and welcome to Real Talk here on KBBG FM 88.1. My name's Deborah Berry, and this is the first of many, many discussions that we're going to have regarding real conversation about the community we live in. As you all know, there's been a series of shootings in our communities since summer, a lot of unrest and concern for our young people. And it's interesting, this show came out of a conversation Mrs. Lou Porter and I had just on Friday evening, where we stopped in a bookstore. Little Zoe was doing an evening reading, and she and I were just expressing some deep, deep concerns about the conditions of our community. And she said, well, let's get some folks together, come on air, and let's talk about it. And I said, let's do it. We're looking at having this discussion after Thanksgiving, but the urgency is now. The time is now for the discussion, particularly in the death of one of our young community member, Daquan Campbell, better known as Bubba. And we are so fortunate to have in the studio today. With me, I have Bubba's relatives, his cousins, along with community activists and also the vice president of the NAACP. So I will go around and have each of you introduce yourselves, and I am very, very thankful to have as well Dr. Sharron Clayton in the studio with me, who's going to help navigate or guide the discussion that we're going to have. And let me just remind our listeners that this is a free flow, nothing's been rehearsed, there are no set of questions, that it's not staged, it's simply real talk about the condition of our community and what we need to do and the role each of you have to play in this. And again, let me just thank KBBG again for the opportunity to have this discussion. I don't know, Lou, if there's anywhere we could walk into a radio station in this city and do what we're doing here. Of course, KBOL opens the door, but I don't know of any other stations that will allow this. So we'll go ahead and get some introductions, and I'll start with you, Dr. Clayton, if you could just share with the listeners who you are, your background, etc.
My name is Sharron Clayton. I think some of you may know me from my show Community Rhythms, and others from my teaching at the University of Northern Iowa, where my focus is in the area of African American Studies. I guess people may know me. If they don't, they will by the time the show is over. Thank you.
My name is Triplett. I'm Bubba's cousin, and I just want to say that we need to turn our community around, like the prosecutors step up there from other dogs. Take a real man, take care of your kids. Everybody can make a baby.
Okay.
My name is
Gardner. I'm a family man, 3 kids, wife, working hard, trying to survive in this world.
My name is Sir Gardner, Bubba's big cousin also. Same, just a family man who work hard every day. Try to provide for my family also, and taking a couple small baby steps myself to help rejuvenate our community with being active in certain sports aspects for little kids, because that's what kept me out of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and my name is David Goodson, founder and CEO of Social Action Inc., lifelong resident of Waterloo, Iowa. Just one of those community members who have tried to be involved over the past 21 years to help make the community a better place to live.
My name is LaTanya Graves, and I'm the Vice President of our local Black Hawk County chapter NAACP. And I too have worked closely with David Goodson in being a community activist for the last 21 years, and trying to just make the community aware of the services that we provide. So we're there and we're trying to bring this community together. And it's gonna take all of us, 2 or 3 of us, that's fine, but it's gonna take all of us to see some change.
Thank you very much for that, LaTanya, and I think that's a great way to start this discussion today. Let me just remind our listeners that the phone lines are open as well, 319-234-1441. If you have a question, you can give us a call. Or if you'd like to just come on by 918 Newell Street, you can stop by the studios and join us here at KBBG. Real talk, and that's what we're here to do today. And we're going to talk about just how we can make our community better, no doubt. But I think that, you know, this is a solemn time for our community right now. And the fact that we have these young men here, you know, and I just want to thank you guys for being here, because just your presence here says that, you know, you're not like most older people think that young people don't care. Young men aren't responsible. But I heard a couple of you say you're married, you have children. In fact, Sessions said fathers need to step up and take care of their children. Is that not what you said?
And that's coming from a man that doesn't even have kids.
Oh, and you're not a
Just
father.
imagine the kind of father he's going to be.
Exactly. Now, talk about, on that note for a moment, you don't have children, but how is it that you know that that's what's missing? One of the components that's missing in our community. How do you know this?
I'm a young black man. I can tell that it's a lot of fathers out here. It's a lot of fathers out here, and they ain't stepping up to their job. If we would, a lot of these young black men wouldn't be either in prison or dead.
Was your dad in your life too, would you say?
Yeah.
Okay, so your father was, so you had that role model. Good. Anyone else?
To touch on that, his dad actually kind of
Raised up.
helped mold me to be the man that I am.
Really?
I grew up, I had my issue with anger, probably because my father wasn't around some of the times, and just because he had his own demons too, who was come back into our life, and now we love him to death. But it's one of those things where...
Is that better known as Twig?
Yes, it's Twig.
Okay, oh yeah, I know Twig.
So I mean, we've all had our issues with growing up and being angry, but like I said, without football, I mean, I wouldn't be who I am today. I mean, it taught me to be disciplined, but every once in a while I would still lose focus. And I had a great group of friends who kind of kept me kind of grounded in myself, and no matter what other people were doing and calling me, you know, so to speak, a square and you're lame for not doing this, I at some point I said, you know, I don't care anymore. I'm here for the greater good.
And I think that's...
And let me just say one thing. When you speak into the mic, just say your first name so people know who's saying what, if you would, okay? Thank you.
Okay, this is cool. And I was just like touching on that. If more of us young men, you know, because I'm out of school to myself, I'm still in the learning process, but if more of us stop caring about what other people think about us and do what we feel is right in our heart, and what we hopefully been raised and taught was right, we all be fine. You know, we happy to be stress free. It coming from your heart is pure. It's what you are, is your being.
So Corey, why do you think we worry about what people think? And I can understand when we're children, we care about what our classmates and our friends think, but when we start reaching our 20s, because I would imagine you guys are all in your 20s, right? Oh, okay.
Sure. This is
Okay.
I'm 34 years old.
Okay, so.
I'll be 30.
Okay, all right, so you guys are kind of getting up there too. You're saying that you still care what your friends think, even in your 20s?
In a sense, yes.
Okay.
And what I mean by saying don't care, you mean don't care about like your outer share or material things, trying to skip a bill so you can go get these clothes instead to go out because that's what your friends are doing or able to do. Maybe they even do the same thing you are to get where you are. I just think you just do right. I'm trying to
That's fine.
do right, you know.
Yeah, and David, I know you've worked with young men since I've known you for 20 years probably, right? Just kind of share some of your perspective on this subject. And again, everybody just say talk. There's no Dr. Clayton, just grab it. Just say what you feel. Go ahead, David.
I think the young man is right. One of the problems, and let's be clear on this whole thing, that is not one thing. It's a multifaceted, collective layers of whether it's parenting, whether it's society, whether it's greater access to guns and drugs, whether it's, whatever, but all kinds of things impact on this. But what you were saying, so that we don't get strictly blaming young people,
Right.
but what you're saying, so many young people, as most of us older people, the attitude that we had when we were young, we were so concerned about what our peers thought, okay? And that's a peer pressure that is real. It's a peer pressure among older people. Go ahead.
This is Corey again, but I believe it's like that now because of the internet, social media is more, it's more well known, about how reality TV and all these things are influencing us. It influenced these kids different. We didn't have that. I didn't have reality TV. I didn't have reality TV. I didn't have the internet.
And those are some of the
Now
things.
it's in the household constantly. Sorry.
And those are some of the things that are impacting on the lives of everyone. When these tragedies happen in our communities of late, many of us people who spend a lot of time talking about the issues, whether it's Dr. Clayton or Reverend Barry or LaTanya or Minister Michael, whoever, we get to a point where it's like, you get almost speechless. You're almost speechless because it's happening at such a rapid pace. And what I've realized is, and I think most people have, this is a different world we live in. We live in a different world. Young people live in a different world. You cannot, the way society has changed and transformed, just picture this. When we walked home from school, if I wanted to talk to my best friend, I had to wait till I get home. And if my mama was on the phone, or if his line was busy, young kids now don't even know what a dial tone is. You don't have no concept of picking up the phone and a busy signal.
Right.
Because no concept of walking up to the TV and turning the channel. Instant access. Hit the button, turn the TV on, and so the world has changed. And commercials are filled with sex, just commercials. We ain't even got to violent videos and violent movies. We just talking about commercials that's loaded with sex. And so this is a different world we live in, and so we better try to figure out how we navigate this world.
Okay, I have one question. The world is different, but people are still here. And there are still adults in this world living with these children, or as the young men have intimated, that need to be in the lives of the young men that are growing up. So part of my brain understands the challenges of what's going on in society. The other part of my brain is going, what the heck? You know, we still have adults around who can do some monitoring unless they've thrown the gloves in and said, hey, just do what you want to do. You know, I think that parenting can still occur in the midst of the challenges that we have. We can still teach responsibility in the use of some of these. I mean, we don't have to get cell phones for our 10-year-olds or for our 8-year-olds. We don't have to get, you know, those are choices that we are making. So just to play the devil's advocate a little bit here, yeah, the world's changed, but we still have people, I would hope, with common sense and a sense of responsibility, people who can actually act on what they say they believe. Because what we are finding is that in this changing world, we have a duplicity, we have mixed messages going out to our kids. We want you to do this, but here, take this game and sit down and play with this game. I don't have time to talk to you.
Let me just make a little bit of the devil's advocate on the other end of that. And you're right. We don't have to get our children cell phones for the sake of being like everybody else. But the world has changed to such with abductions and children being raped and taken off. I might want to have my 10-year-old have a cell phone just in case. I'm just saying, but not for the purpose of because all his friends got one. Right. But we now have to think about the fact that your kid can come up missing.
And if I could, David, and thank you for that too. I just really want to just introduce Minister Mike Muhammad, who just joined us here in the studio, and we'd like to hear from you too, Minister.
Yes, first, in the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, I greet you in the greeting words of peace. We say it in Arabic, Assalamu alaikum, in English is just simply peace be unto you. It is an honor being here amongst all of you here. And of course, our illustrious Mrs. Porter here at KBBG, it is certainly an honor to be as such a staple in our community, such an important instrument, organ in our community, this radio station of home, and what I hope that this community will continue to support and or become more active in supporting these black organizations and institutions that exist. So I did want to say that just off the top. And also, just to feed into this powerful conversation, a very relevant conversation, especially what's going on with so many young black men and women throughout America. It's not just in Waterloo, but the country is plagued with the sicknesses of black on black crime, murder, apathy, and all of the horrific numbers and statistics that we're all aware of. I was thinking, as Minister Goodson was talking about the climate, and I think it's important, it's essential that we study the climate that young people are in today. It is a different climate, and it's one where you are high on a blunt, you're drunk, and now you're being given suggestions. We all experience that at certain levels in our lives. Well, I did at least. But the suggestions that are coming to young people today are far more severe, more creative, more diabolic than there ever were, since there ever was a time. And in my humble view, it's social engineering at its finest. With reality television, what it's called, which that's very dangerous language to use describing a program, is calling it reality, when in fact it's not reality, but circumstances that you create in order for young people to emulate. So now we have fight clubs. We have young girls who dress a certain way, who attack and fight one another in the streets. Young brothers who have absolutely zero respect for young ladies. I mean, these diseases are growing out of the social engineering factor. So it's not just the material aspects of things, but it's the whole culture that's been created, and it's systematic. I can't say that it's just the young people, and I won't just say it's the parents alone. Now, yeah, we have failed, but when you take into consideration that the parents are in fact affected, they are that generation younger. I'm a younger man, a few decades, 4 decades old, and you know, I came in at a time where we still had a parent to a certain, I mean, that had a parental power in our life. Today, they're younger, and you have 80s babies, and you have children who are, you know, we remember the old saying, babies having babies, and that whole campaign that came about in the 80s and even later in the 90s, but that whole campaign, these are the babies. And the babies that we're having babies are the parents who lack parental skills and who are misinformed themselves. So how do we effectively parent if you don't have those tools in the mind of those parents who are the parents of the children who are out committing the murders and the crimes and the chaos that you see in today's society? So it's a bigger plot. It's a conspiracy. And I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but it is clear that it is a conspiracy when you put Flavor Flav on television and call it the flavor of love. And then you put a sister on there, and you have black women running around fighting over Flavor Flav, for God's sake. I ain't trying to beat on my brother, but let's keep it real. The ideal is that you demoralize his character coming out of Public Enemy, any of us hip hop, who was conscious, and you take him and you reduce him to this total buffoon, and then you take our sisters and you have them fighting and going at it. And so that was a starting place. Now you got love in hip hop, you got love in basketball wives, you got powerful sisters who are potentially very powerful on television. And then you got these brothers fighting each other, you know, and then hip hop music. And I know how dangerous that is. I know this is going to raise a hair, but it's the truth. It is the truth. It's the way it's been hijacked. It's not so much that hip hop itself, it's the way it's been hijacked, the way that they're writing the music now, where you can hardly find a song, even if you go R&B, that's decent. But I got a lot on this one, so I'll hold some of my thoughts and let people talk, but certainly.
Go right ahead, Corey or sir.
This is Sir. Again, it's just my personal opinion is we're glorifying the wrong things. Just like I was telling my wife the other day, we were watching the football game last night, and there was just a simple football play where a guy made a good play, and the defender made a good play, and the guy slapped him on his leg to say good job, and the cameraman never shows that. They show when Jordan Belcher for the Chiefs killed his wife, and that's big news, but they don't promote the good things. And I got another quick story too that's kind of on the same kind of subject is I'm on a program where the junior walk football program, and we're trying to take not just black children, but there's plenty of other children out here too with issues with parenting and things like that also. But it's a football program, and a kid got hurt at one of our practices, which is it was a precautionary issue we had to take. He hurt his neck, and we called the ambulance just to be safe. We're better safe than sorry. And it was a minor injury, but KBBG came, and they were downplaying how bad tackle football is. Football's terrible for the youth, and it's like we're giving them a positive outlet, because some kids love this game, and it's our jobs. What we're trying to do is teach them to play this game in the safe way, and we're also getting rid of this idle time a lot of these kids have. Because a lot of what you're saying too is they have too much not to do. There's a whole bunch of standing around twiddling their thumbs, so, might as well go smoke a blunt, or might as well go run with this guy I normally probably wouldn't go hang with, but I got nothing else to do. So, and I'm not just coming at you as a coach, because there's other avenues you can take too. It doesn't have to just be sports. I mean, there's student councils kids can get on, there's yearbook staffs kids can get on. It's just, we have to find a way to stop idolizing the wrong things and stop showing the terrible things on TV, and maybe every once in a while show a guy slapping a guy in the leg saying good job, instead of the big mean tackle, and then you see the guy stomping some guy in his leg. Let's stop showing that and show the positive things.
Mrs. Porter?
This is so deep already until I don't know if I can even handle this, but I'm gonna give it a shot, and it's based principally off of what the fellows right here have been talking about. We can talk until we turn blue in the face, but until we go back home and parent our children like we are supposed to, you can't give me enough excuses, because I wouldn't buy any of them. Because the generation I grew up in, that was the last generation where parents were parenting. It got worse. Deborah, your group was actually the last children of the village. Y'all are the last of those children. All the other kids since then, the parenting went to you know where. It has not recovered. we still have children raising children, and there's no way that we can talk our way out of this. It has to be something that comes up that produces action, so that there can be change. Otherwise, we're gonna be talking about, there's always going to be something that assails us in a way that maybe sometimes we feel, overwhelmed, but then we'll turn right around and spend our last dollar to go to the movies, to buy clothes, as the guys have said, to do those things that don't really benefit our own children. The technology that we have today is either gonna take us out altogether, or there's gonna be some kind of a change. And you cannot make change without looking at the ground, without looking where are we going? And how can we get there? And it can't, if 10 people can do it, fine. If you need 10,000, fine. If you need to get your own house straightened out, fine. But you can't, you have these little girls, their mothers are dressing them as if they're going on a date. You have these little boys who, it's time for women to stop using them as a substitute for the missing father or the present boyfriend. Those things have got to be said, they've got to be looked at. You can't have people in and out your house and you got girls and there's nobody there to even watch them to find out what is going on. We have got to ask them, and boys, yeah, it used to just be girls that you worried about. Now, you're just boys. What about my little boys?
I think it all boils down to their priorities, man. They don't know what to do. I mean, I'm talking about the parents, man. Like, I'm a 29-year-old man, you know, I'm an 80s baby, as Mike was saying. But I've been to a lot of my friends' house, and not too many of them have their kids eat at the table. You know, my kids have table manners. Don't put your elbows on the table. You know,
That's right.
Make a mess right there. You know.
So,
I feel like
okay.
I'm sorry.
No,
I feel like if you as a parent, you know, if you were raised not the right way, but you know the right way, that don't mean you should raise your kids the way that you were raised. You know.
What if you don't know the right way? Because it seems to me so many parents don't know. And it's not, I don't think anyone wants to be a bad parent. Do you think anyone wants to be a bad parent?
I think it's just, again, I agree with a lot of what I'm hearing, because I think it's, we're saying the same things, but I think that sometimes we're speaking from different points of views, which is relevant, and that's why, you know, you really can't say this person or that person is necessarily wrong, because everybody's, when you talk about we got to go back to the ground level, that's absolutely right. You know, I think that where we are running the problems is the practicality, is the application of how do we get to the place that we need to get to in terms of helping to define parenting, because it has not been defined properly anymore. The ideal of parenting, as you pointed out, you talk about the generational gaps, but you have young people who have no concept of parenting, and what comes to mind with your question, Representative Berry, is how will they know unless they have a teacher? And how can they have a teacher unless he be sent? This is a deliberate thing, you know, and I'm not blaming anybody existentially. You know, I'm not talking about white people necessarily per se, because white. But when we look at society, you have to look at the whole of society, the power structure. You have to look at poverty. That's one of the big conversations that's nationally right now. That's a created condition. Poverty is not something that just happens. It's something that is created. And they have created situations where you have ghettos, now you have poor young people out here today are hungry. Listen, physically hungry. Now you take physical hunger, then you put, which leads you to sheer desperation. Now you have a culture of information, a campaign of dumbing down.
That's it.
This is a deliberate act. This is not in my head. This is not some fear or some blame. This is deliberate when you have young people who cannot even text or who cannot even write an application without using text language, without using LOL and abbreviations to convey themselves in a general conversation, where they have altered the English language to such a degree that they've created an entirely new language that sounds like we're back on the plantation.
And it's not just, you know, the pervasive part of this is that it crosses all people, you know, and one of the things we have to do is to be concerned about our black children, but they're living in a society where white children, Hispanic children, all of these children are coming to the classroom at the college level doing exactly what you say they're doing. They're doing text language, and you have to tell them, you know what, I do not accept text language. You know, come on, let's write for real. Let me say this and what I'm hearing. We have people who don't know how to you know, Deb, you asked the question, but we have organizations, we have churches, we have outlets where we can teach our own, even in the context of this society where deliberate work is being done. How deliberate are we going to be to change the psychological mindset of the young people that are coming up? I mean, if we're living in a society that has been purposefully constructed, how do we deconstruct that society, and where are those places where we can do that? And don't we have those places in hand?
Let me say, I think that's a very valid question, and I think it's important and valid point. But our problem is not just the young people, unfortunately. No, I know you're not saying that. I'm just speaking to your point. It's the whole community, the black community per se, and that's the one that I think we have to really focus on. And of course our Latino and poor whites ultimately, but we're killing each other at alarming rates throughout America in every ghetto that you go to. Here in Waterloo we have unsolved murders, for God's sake, among young black people. The leadership, and this is the thing that I even pointed out, unfortunately, at the funeral of the young man, and the fact that the community itself has failed. The organizations have failed, one, because they're out of touch. And when you're out of touch as an organization, then you don't have the right appeal to be able to go out and talk to young people in the street. With the Bakari program that Minister Goodson has, who he's sensitive to what's going on in the streets. If you don't know what this young man, that's why I was saying, he's hungry. Now, not only is he hungry, if his mother is a decent parent who's trying to work, who's trying to do the right thing, but she can't be there, his father's not there, she's not there, so what does he lean on? He leans on the street. So where is he getting his education from? Where is he getting his guidance from? Where is he learning his first lessons of manhood and life? He's learning them from the streets. But who is he learning them from? Other uninformed young men in the community. That's why they have so much love. I was at the funeral, you look at the little brother, I'm crying, watching them lock up because they really love this brother that's there lying dead, which was their compadre. They loved him because that's the union. So the family now is the streets. The churches, the organizations have become so focused on everything else but getting down to the bare necessities. The churches, whatever, it don't make a difference to me whether you want what organization it is, but they have to create within those organizations educational programming that we begin to teach young girls how to sew, how to cook, how to take care of their family, their children, how to take care of a husband when they get one, how to love young men. And I've talked this for years. This is not a fly-by-night dialogue I'm having here on the radio at this moment. The churches, and this is good. I start with the church because they're the biggest organization we have in our community, and I'm not afraid to say what I have to say. You have men in the church, you have deacons, you have leaders in the churches. Why not grab these young boys and don't teach them that a weak, watered down version of Jesus, but teach them the man Jesus so that they can have that militant propensity that's in them by nature. But if you're teaching them a pacifist, then what you have is you have young boys growing up, and unfortunately, who don't have any real understanding of their own personal sexual identity, and they're growing up in the house of God. So they're not even thinking about going over and getting a woman and being responsible with a woman. But if we had in the institutions where you could take and you say, let's get this manhood program, things that we've been doing for years, without financial support or opposition and all these other levels, but you get this manhood program. And this is what we've done in the nation. This is why I'm here. I'm a product of what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking, I'm a product where I had to stand in a line and with other young men, and I had to put my chest out and put my feet at a certain place and look straight ahead, clean my body and my make sure my teeth and my hair was cut and I was groomed. That was a train along with what I was getting from the Word of God. See, and that's what has to happen within. We have, another thing, we become afraid of our babies. So the enemy and the oppressor is now out of our fear because we can't handle them. What's the matter with these children? What's going on? So what are we doing? We're not just Mary and Martha anymore, crying and weeping and moaning. We're now calling the police. We're becoming unwitting co-conspirators in the destruction of our own young people, because when they come in, they're going to do what? They're going to kill them. They're going to shoot them like they did the young brother over a block over from my house. You know, shoot the young brother down because he had a gun. He threw the gun. He was running. Okay, a lot of mitigating circumstances, but the point is, then we're going to be angry with the police. Then we got to come back and then call them again. See, this is a contradiction. When we could start at the very root ourselves, and this is what I'm hearing you say, Mrs. Porter, I agree with you, but it has to start right in those churches, it has to start in those organizations, and they can't be weak. And we also have to, as Minister Goodson, we know this, it has to have a culturally competent education. When you're dealing with young black men and women, and I'm in the church, my little girl, I'm going to hurry up and shut up. My little girl, I'm talking yesterday, or Saturday, at the funeral. My daughter at home. All this church full of young people. My daughter receives a text message from one of her friends who were there. And the little girl said, "Your dad has got me in tears here." This was one of the most important pieces of feedback that I got. Then later on that night, she told my daughter, she said, "I can't put the Bible down. I gotta pick the book up. I gotta keep reading it." I told my wife to tell my daughter to tell the young lady, because she didn't understand. She said, "I feel weird." I said, "That's the Spirit of God awakened in that baby." And what I told them, and I told my wife to tell my daughter to tell her, I said, "Look, sweetheart," I said, tell her that's what it is. And to keep studying and reading, because God has made contact with her in her heart. See, so that's telling us that we can reach our young people, but we can't go at them. And I was talking about culturally competent dialogue, knowing who you are. And when you teach young brothers and sisters that's what helps to pull us up in degrees out of this cancer that we're in. And we do need to do it in a unified, collective way, and we need to put our money where our mouth is. Mrs. Porter, you are absolutely right. We've been talking a long time, but we need to be proactive. I agree with you.
Let me just take a moment to introduce and welcome our Councilman Quentin Hart, who represents the 4th Ward here. Councilman Hart, welcome, and let's hear from you if we could.
Greetings to everybody in the radio audience, and I'm very thankful for KBBG, Mrs. Porter, Representative Berry, and everybody that's assembled here today to talk about what's taking place in our community in regards to violence, in regards to breakdowns where we can possibly do things a little bit better. I just want to say just a couple quick things, and then hopefully I can come back later and say something. But one of the things I was talking to Minister Mike about the other day is called the complexity of a tragedy. When you have a tragedy or a situation that takes place, everybody knows that what happened was wrong. You know, there was a life that was lost. But the challenge comes in, and it's good to hear everything that everybody said about actually where does the breakdown come from, because it's very complex. It comes from a breakdown, you in that situation, you got the police involved, and you think about what the police did not do. You think about what did our social service agencies not do. You think about what the family didn't do. But when you have a tragedy, there is a breakdown somewhere. So I'm glad to hear everybody talking about this situation and taking a look at it from many different viewpoints. So that's where I want to start off for right now, and then hopefully I can come back a little bit later and add to.
Okay, Corey, you were going to say?
Yeah, I don't remember exactly what I was about to say, but I just wanted to say, when we say we need to change, help these kids out and help them more, it's easier said than done, because what we're trying to teach them is something far more complicated than what they can easily run to. We're trying to teach them how to work hard, do this right, you know what I'm saying, at a teenage state. You know, that's where most of this stuff is starting with teenagers. But it's easy for us to say that to them, then go home, live our life with our family, and he goes out there to his dude, his friend, whatever, gets a bag, make $10 like that, and you're like, man, this is way easier than what this man was just talking about, you know? And it, like my brother was doing, he's doing a youth football thing for the youth, but after that age, then what, you know? Like, you start, it's the teenagers that's where the transition, because it happened to me, you know, I was one of them kids, man. I was an honor roll student all the way to 9th grade, you know. I had a lot of accomplishments. I had 4.0 all the way to 9th grade. And I as a young man, I felt lost. I wasn't getting the attention I felt like I needed, I guess. So I stopped caring. And by the time I was 19, I had 3 felonies. You know? And I went to jail. Lord bless me, I never been to prison. You know, 3 felonies, that's a blessing. I went to jail for 6 months, didn't get to see my first daughter born. And that woke me up, you know, like my baby. But yeah, I think we need to attack these preteens and teenagers more.
Okay. We're going to take a quick call if we could. I understand we have Reverend Campbell. Pastor Campbell, how you doing today? Good. Go ahead. You're on air. Go right ahead, Reverend.
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Councilman Berry, and thank God for all of them down there. Okay?
Yes, go ahead. You may have to turn your radio down, please.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I just wanted to join in with the conversation.
Please. Go right ahead.
Okay, I just want to join in with the conversation.
Yes, go ahead. Did you have something you need to say, or did you?
For KBBG.
Yes. Pastor.
Also, we hope that this is just the beginning.
Yes, go ahead. But we do need you to just turn your radio down, could you, Pastor?
All the way down?
Yes, turn your radio down. You're getting feedback.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
All right. This is the beginning of a great thing in the community. I do want to commend all those that are down there, especially the young men that came out. It shows that this is a great starting point. I just hope and pray that forums like this can continue in our community. But this is nothing new. With murderers and killings, the Bible said Cain killed Abel, his own brother, out of jealousy. And a lot of times that's a snowball effect. But when we was growing up as children in our community, we just couldn't hang with anybody. Our parents would screen us, ask us who our parents was, where they worked, and get the whole 9 yards. But nowadays, some parents are allowing their kids to commingle with just anybody because it's convenient for the parent to do what they want to do. And so everybody has a job to do. And I believe when we all work together, we may not can save the whole world because this is something that's happened rapidly in the bigger cities. We just don't expect it to happen in our own community. But there are a few young ladies at the funeral on their Friday that shared the same pain that Mrs. Bentley felt in losing her son. And so I believe if we keep up where we're starting, I don't care if it's held at my church, KBBG, or wherever, but I believe we're on the right road, and we continue. We can't save the whole world. We can get 2 or 3 of them to turn them around, get them to set goals for their lives, and continue to move forward and pray and hope that somebody gets it, and that to let them know that life is too short to waste it
Right.
on a short-term excitement with no long-term goals. So God bless you all. God keep you all. And we just want to be an encouragement, share within the dialogue. Everything that has been shared has been vital, and it is important that we continue to move forward with these plans and ideas. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity. Amen.
And thank you too, Reverend. We'd like to take a call now from.
Rebecca.
We have another call, Pastor Clayton. Okay, she'll call back. If you're listening, Pastor, please call us back. A couple things that was just said. And I really do get Minister Micah about, and all of us here, about parenting, and we talk about when we grew up. Like you said, David, it's a different world though. And I think parenting is relative. I mean, it's just like a rich man who loses a few millions, he think he's poor, and he still got more millions in the bank. It's all relative. It's based on where you are and what you know and how you've been brought up, and or maybe not even. Well, yeah, Luke, because you brought it up, you said we were the last of the village, for example. So we dropped the ball, apparently. Go ahead, Minister.
One thing that I want to say, and this may be a little bit of a polar shift, if you will, but we can't reference the presence and think that we can bring our experience and that becomes the comparative for what's happening today.
Right.
The dynamic has changed tremendously. And unfortunately, because that was some good parenting. I mean, I got some remnants of good parenting. But today it's a totally different nature of what's happening with young people. First of all, this is the strongest, and I said this and I believe this, the strongest generation of young people that we have ever produced. They are fearless generation. They're just misdirected.
Yes,
they're misguided. But they have zero fear. Like many in this room, it's the Joshua generation. That when Moses was making the Exodus, and at a certain point they got stuck in the wilderness for 40, trip that would only take 40 days, ended up 40 years. And the older generation, above the age of 40, they were saying, had to die. Well, this is that generation who's born to take us into the promised land. So the plot on the part of the oppressors is to keep them dumbed down, keep them with felony. The new N-word, I said this some time ago, is a felony. That's another means of justification. The mass incarceration, the prison industrial complex, they're filling it up. The food that the young people are eating, they're not eating meals like we ate. We ate food out of the garden. So there has to be an entirely different paradigm shift in our community. And this is where I think the black leadership, the preachers, teachers, all of us who have some degree of understanding of what's going on, where we have to grow up, because I think that where we are feeling as we're immature. We haven't, and this may be a hard pill to swallow, but it's a real one. We have to mature and come to the realization that, one, no one outside of our community is going to fix this problem for us. Two, that we have enough power collectively with PhDs and MSs and all of the degrees that we have gained in experience in life to pull that together collectively, create a new educational paradigm for young people in our community. Then we go buy some land. We go put them in the field. I learned how to pull weeds out of a garden. Now, that's my experience. But if you want young people today to do that, then we have to create the opportunity. No, we can't tell the young brother to go get a job. I mean, not today when we got the 40% high unemployment rate among young people from a certain age group. Black men, 17% unemployment rate and up. You know, how you go get a job? White folks don't even have jobs. Nobody hardly has jobs. We have to create jobs. And I think that's where we're failing. We're failing because we're waiting on Obama, some of us. We're waiting, and we haven't forced Obama to do anything, which we should have. But we got a black president, we went to sleep. We thought that was enough. But the gay community, they got forward, they came out and protested. They got laws passed. The Latino community is now working on immigration. He said he's working on immigration for the Latino community. But the black community, we're still in the dark, killing each other in the streets. In the black leadership, in my humble view, we haven't organized sufficiently enough to say, okay, this is what we have to do. And let's go roll up our sleeves. Let's go roll up our pants leg. Let's overcome the fear. We talking God, we talking Jesus. Let's go prove that we know God and prove that we know Jesus and go deal with our babies like we know how to deal with our babies, as opposed to pointing the finger at the babies and not pointing the finger and taking the responsibility and putting it on ourselves as well.
Minister, we have a call. We're going to take this call.
Not yet.
Hello?
She's already there.
Oh, she's already there?
Shut
Okay.
her off.
She was,
All right.
I already had it hooked up.
I'm sorry.
She just needed to talk, I'm sorry.
It's been a long time since I've been in the studio. I
We're not gonna let you
apologize.
push buttons in.
pushing
Okay.
everything. Pushing buttons.
Is there
Okay.
someone already?
Who has a double call it?
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want
If you
to
would.
say, first of all, that Minister Mike, I agree with a lot of what you're saying. And what I said earlier was that some of the responsibility had to come with the adults. You know, because even in a changing society, there are going to be some constants that exist. And the constants that will exist in a society will be that adult population, that parenting population. As long as we try and say the problem lies with the victim of our inadequacy as adults, or the problem lies with the environment strictly as the environment changes, we're not going to be able to change the behavior, because the behavior basically occurs because of the interaction